Welcome to Baha'i On Air.
I'm Mark.
And I'm Jane.
Hello, everyone.
In this deep dive, we're going to explore a really fundamental spiritual quality, acceptance. We'll be looking at it through the lens of the Baha'i writings.
Yes, think of this as a kind of devotional focus. We've gathered quotations from Bahá'u'lláh, Abdu'l-Bahá, and Shoghi Effendi.
Exactly. The idea is just to create a space for reflection, maybe get a deeper understanding of what acceptance means as a virtue in the faith.
Sounds good. Where should we start?
Let's begin with Baha'u'lláh. This is from the Tablets of Baha'u'lláh. The source of all glory is acceptance of whatsoever the Lord hath bestowed, and contentment with that which God hath ordained.
The source of all glory. That's a powerful opening.
It really is, linking glory directly to acceptance.
Yeah.
It makes you pause, doesn't it? What really jumps out at you there?
Well, it immediately suggests that spiritual glory, maybe our spiritual progress, isn't about, striving for external things like the world often tells us.
Right.
It's rooted much more deeply, doesn't it, in our inner state, our ability to accept and maybe even find peace with what happens, what God wills for us.
Yeah, it's like it flips the script on what we might think leads to spiritual growth.
Absolutely. Are we actually hindering ourselves if we're constantly pushing back against our circumstances?
That's a good question. Okay, let's bring in Abdu'l-Bahá now, from Light of the World. Let not your hearts be saddened by this calamity, nor grieved over this affliction that have come to pass. Set your hearts upon the mercy and the loving kindness of the Abha beauty. Rejoice in his glad tidings, and take delight in his manifold favors.
This one feels very direct, addressing sadness and grief head-on.
It does. It acknowledges those feelings are real, but then immediately points us somewhere else, towards hope. How is this different from just sort of resigning yourself to bad things happening?
That's a really key point. It's not about passive resignation, is it? It feels much more active.
Active how?
Like it's an active reorientation. You're consciously choosing where to put your focus.
Right.
Even when you're in the middle of something difficult, a calamity, he says.
Yeah.
The instruction is to focus on God's mercy, his loving kindness, the glad tidings, the good things. It's acceptance, but it's fueled by focusing on divine grace, not just enduring the hardship blankly.
So it's a very conscious choice, a shift in where you look.
Exactly.
Now, Shoghi Effendi talks about acceptance in a slightly different context. This is from Lights of Guidance. Full recognition of the station of the forerunner, the author, and the true exemplar of the Baha'i cause. Unreserved acceptance of and submission to whatsoever has been revealed by their pen. Loyal and steadfast adherence to every clause of our beloved sacred will.
Okay, so here acceptance seems tied very directly to the foundations of the Baha'i faith itself.
Right. It's not just about personal life events, but about accepting the teachings, the figures. What's the weight of this unreserved acceptance here?
Well, it seems to be saying that acceptance is really the bedrock of faith. It's not just sort of intellectually agreeing that, yes, the Bab was the forerunner, Baha'u'lláh the author, Abdu'l-Bahá the exemplar.
It's more than that.
Much more. It's described as unreserved, a complete embrace of their guidance, their revelation. It implies a deep trust in the wisdom that's been revealed through them. That acceptance provides the framework, really.
A framework for understanding life and God's will. Okay.
Aligning yourself with that revealed truth.
Now here's another passage from Abdu'l-Bahá, again from Light of the World, reflecting on Baha'u'llah's passing. It sounds quite challenging at first. Now that the beauty of the all-praised hath ascended, and the daystar of the kingdom hath set, whither can we direct our affections, and what comfort can we expect? How are we to find repose, and in what hope can our hearts rejoice? Oh, the pity! A myriad times the pity, if for a single moment we should look for ease or comfort. Alas, 1,000 times alas, if we should seek any peace and tranquility except in trials, tribulations, and suffering sustained in his path.
Wow. That is intense. Finding peace only in trials.
Exactly. It feels counterintuitive. How does acceptance help us understand this perspective on loss and, well, suffering?
I think it forces us to really question what we mean by comfort and peace, especially spiritually. Maybe the deepest kind of solace isn't found when everything is easy.
Especially when the difficulty is endured for your faith.
Precisely,
Yeah.
in service to God. The acceptance here seems to involve recognizing that suffering in his path can actually be transformative. It can purify, draw you closer. It's accepting that struggle isn't necessarily a sign something's wrong, but maybe part of the journey itself.
Like forging strength in the fire. Okay. Baha'u'lláh broadens the scope a bit and the promised day has come. Fear God, O concourse of kings, and suffer not yourselves to be deprived of this most sublime grace. Fling away, then, the things ye possess, and take fast hold on the handle of God. Set your hearts towards the face of God, and abandon that which your desires have bidden you to follow, and be not of those who perish.
Addressed to kings, but the principle feels universal. Fling away the things ye possess.
Yeah, acceptance here seems connected to detachment, doesn't it? Letting go of material things.
Right.
How does that connect to the virtue we're discussing?
Well, it suggests that holding on to worldly things too tightly, or letting our own desires run the show, can actually block us from something greater, that sublime grace.
So acceptance involves recognizing what's truly valuable.
I think so. Accepting the transient nature of, stuff,
Yeah.
and accepting that our connection with God is the real anchor. It's accepting a different kind of richness, a spiritual wealth, as being more important.
A reevaluation of our priorities. Got it. Now back to Abdu'l-Bahá in Light of the World. O beloved friends of Abdu'l-Bahá, no sooner had the hand of divine power raised the tabernacle of everlasting glory, the tabernacle of the oneness of humanity in the midmost heart of the world, then he opened wide the portals of supreme mercy before us all. He delivered us from every heavy load and relieved us from every grievous burden. He enjoined upon us only laws, ordinances, and teachings that bestow life to the soul and cause it to draw nigh unto the best beloved.
This paints a picture of relief, of burdens being lifted through divine mercy.
It does. So how does accepting these laws, ordinances, and teachings actually relieve us of burdens? It seems paradoxical sometimes, accepting laws to feel freer.
It's a fascinating idea, isn't
Yeah.
it? That the guidance isn't meant to be restrictive, but liberating. Acceptance here means recognizing the wisdom within those teachings. By embracing them, following them, we're aligning ourselves with something bigger, a spiritual framework. And that maybe frees us from the heavier weight of just following our own limited understanding or whims.
So acceptance is also embracing the path that brings that relief. It's not just enduring difficulty.
Right. And Baha'u'lláh, again, in The Promised Day Has Come, really highlights a core element. Place not thy reliance on thy treasures. Put thy whole confidence in the grace of God thy Lord. Let him be thy trust in whatever thou doest, and be of them that have submitted themselves to his will.
Trust, confidence, submission. These words keep coming up alongside acceptance. How crucial is trust here?
Oh, absolutely central, I'd say. You can't truly accept something, especially if it's hard or confusing, without a fundamental trust in the source in God's wisdom and goodness.
And submission follows from that.
It seems the natural outcome. If you genuinely trust that God's will is ultimately for the best, even when you don't see how, then submitting, accepting that will, isn't like a weak surrender. It's more like leaning into a source of strength, finding peace in that trust.
Letting go of the need to be in control, perhaps.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it, trusting a larger purpose.
Now, Abdu'l-Bahá widens the lens again. This is from a talk at a Baha'i banquet. Therefore, we must follow the example of God and strive in pathways of goodwill toward all humanity. May our purposes centralize in the earnest desire of attaining the good pleasure of God, and may our supreme energies be directed to welding together the human household. Let us not regard our own respective capacities. Nay, rather, let us regard forever the favors and bounties of God.
Brings in goodwill towards all humanity, welding together the human household.
So acceptance extends outwards too, accepting others, working for unity. How does that fit with the personal virtue we've been talking about?
It shows acceptance isn't just an internal thing, right? It has real-world consequences. Accepting the oneness of humanity means we have to look past differences, embrace people with goodwill.
And the part about not regarding our own capacities.
That's interesting, too. It's like, accept our role in God's plan, focus on his favors and bounties, not on what we think we can't do. That kind of acceptance fuels action towards unity, towards building that human household.
Accepting our interconnectedness and our part in the bigger picture. Okay.
Yeah.
Baha'u'lláh also addresses acceptance and leadership, again from The Promised Day Has Come. Lay not aside the fear of God, O kings of the earth, and beware that ye transgress not the bounds which the Almighty hath fixed. Observe the injunctions laid upon you in his book, and take good heed not to overstep their limits. Be vigilant, that ye may not do injustice to anyone, be it to the extent of a grain of mustard seed. Tread ye the path of justice.
So, leaders accepting divine laws as their guide.
Seems like it. What does this imply about acceptance and a just society?
It highlights that accepting a higher moral authority, God's laws, is fundamental for just governance. It's a call for leaders to accept limits, to accept principles laid down in the book as a guard against doing injustice.
Even down to a mustard seed.
Exactly. Acceptance of these divine boundaries guides them towards fairness, recognizing everyone's worth.
And he continues this theme in Gleanings. Compose your differences and reduce your armaments, that the burden of your expenditures may be lightened and that your minds and hearts may be tranquilized. Heal the dissensions that divide you. Fear God and take heed not to outstrip the bounds of moderation.
Connecting acceptance now to peace, disarmament, moderation on a global scale.
Right. How does accepting these ideas lead to a more tranquil world?
Well, it's about accepting the wisdom of peace over conflict, moderation over excess. If nations accept the need to compose differences, reduce arms, practice moderation.
Then the burdens lighten, minds and hearts can be tranquil.
Exactly. It's accepting our interconnectedness as nations and choosing collective well-being over just narrow self-interest. Acceptance becomes foundational for global harmony.
Not just personal, but societal and global too.
Definitely.
Okay, let's circle back to the individual's response to hardship. Abdu'l-Bahá, in the Promulgation of Universal Peace, says, "All the prophets of God, all the messengers divinely appointed, have borne afflictions and hardships, yet they did not complain or become sad or depressed, but rather their faces were illuminated with the radiance of divine satisfaction. They accepted calamity as bounty, death as life, and troubles as the greatest comfort. Let us emulate them and follow their example."
Powerful examples there. Accepting calamity as bounty.
It's a high standard. What can we really take from the example of the prophets about acceptance when facing trials?
Their lives show the sheer power of acceptance, don't they? Despite incredible suffering, they didn't just endure. They had this inner radiance, seeing trials as ways to get closer to God, to fulfill their mission.
So their example teaches us
That by accepting difficulties with faith, seeing their potential for growth, we can also find a deeper purpose, maybe even that divine satisfaction, instead of just despair.
And Bahá'u'lláh reinforces this, quoted in selections from the writings of Abdu'l-Bahá. "The trials and tribulations which rain down from the clouds of divine decree are, all of them, blessings and bestowals of God. Accept the tribulations with radiant acquiescence and turn always to the well-beloved."
Recontextualizing trials again, not just hardships, but blessings and bestowals.
How does that shift things? Accepting them with radiant acquiescence.
It invites us to look past the immediate difficulty, doesn't it? To trust there's a deeper purpose, a divine wisdom, even in the storm. If we see them as blessings, maybe we can face them not just with gritted teeth, but with a kind of joyful acceptance, that radiant acquiescence. It transforms the response.
From resistance to hopeful endurance.
Yes. And Abdu'l-Bahá adds another layer in selections. "Be not grieved if the tempest of trials and tribulations assail thee from every direction, for the greatness of the cause dependeth upon the measure of thy resignation and submission."
Wow. Linking our personal acceptance directly to the progress of the Baha'i cause itself.
It's a profound link. It suggests our ability to bear trials with acceptance, with that resignation and submission, actually impacts the spiritual advancement of the faith.
How so?
Well, maybe our steadfastness becomes a proof, a testament to the power of the teachings. It inspires others, strengthens the community, contributes to the cause's growth in the world. Our personal acceptance has a collective resonance.
That's quite a responsibility.
It is.
And Baha'u'lláh offers this perspective in the Fire Tablet. "Say, O people, should you regard with contempt the afflictions of the friend of God? Nay, by the one in whose hand is my soul. They are the means of purification to the sincere and the lantern of guidance for the lovers of God."
Purification and guidance, not punishment.
Exactly. Trials as tools for refinement for those who love God. How does acceptance unlock that power?
Acceptance allows us to see them that way. Instead of viewing afflictions as roadblocks or signs we've done something wrong, acceptance lets us embrace them as opportunities. Opportunities for purification, for cleansing the soul, and as a lantern, shedding light on the path ahead. It shifts the whole experience.
Okay, so let's bring this towards a conclusion, focusing on finding peace through acceptance. Abdu'l-Bahá, quoted in Baha'i World Faith, "Whatever the Almighty doeth is for the best. The friends of God must never become sad or disheartened by any trials that befall them. Rather, they should accept them cheerfully and hopefully and rely upon the wisdom of their Maker."
That really circles back to the core idea of trust, doesn't it? Trusting it's for the best.
And accepting cheerfully and hopefully, how does that lead to peace? It sounds difficult.
It does, but I think the passage suggests that if you truly deeply believe God's actions are ultimately good, even when you don't understand.
Then you can cultivate cheerfulness and hope.
Perhaps that unwavering trust allows you to let go of the anxiety, the why me, and find a kind of inner peace that isn't dependent on external circumstances being perfect.
And Baha'u'lláh gives us this final thought from Leanings. He who hath no one to assist him, let him place his whole trust in God and be content with his will, for his will is the will of none other but God. Let him rely wholly upon the Lord. He is indeed the Lord of strength and power. Whatever he doeth is right, and to be accepted with radiance and gratitude.
Radiance and gratitude, that really sums it up.
Complete trust, contentment with his will, accepting whatever happens with joy and thankfulness. That's where true peace lies, it seems.
Absolutely. Our whole exploration today points to that, doesn't it? At the heart of acceptance is this profound trust in God, recognizing his power and wisdom and responding to life, all of it, with that radiance and gratitude.
So just to wrap up the key threads we've touched on, acceptance in the Baha'i view seems to cover so much. Accepting God's will, finding joy even in hardship by focusing on his mercy.
Accepting the guidance from the manifestations with complete faith. Understanding the vital role of trust and submission.
Seeing trials as blessings, as means for purification and growth.
And ultimately finding that deep inner peace by accepting everything that comes with radiance and gratitude. It's a rich concept.
It really is. Maybe the final thought for you listening is to reflect on how this principle of acceptance sits with you. Where might it apply in your own life right now?
How could cultivating it perhaps foster more inner peace, more spiritual growth for you? Something to mull over.
Indeed. Thank you so much for joining us for this devotional deep dive on Baha'i on Air.
Thank you.